Hey everyone, what's going on? Welcome to another edition of the PureCloud Community's Q&A show, the show where we answer your questions in the community. My name is Matt Lawson. I am your online community manager, and today, hot dog, we have a brand new expert joining us in replacement of George, coming all the way down from the Genesys Resource Center. Please welcome Jordan Robinson Rucker. Jordan, how are you?
Hi, thanks for inviting me.
Sure. Now, I mentioned at the top that you are from the Resource Center, and we haven't had anybody from your team on the show yet. Can you just give us a little bit of information about what the Resource Center is and how it might be used?
Sure. Our Resource Center is the online help for the PureCloud UI. So if anything from how do I send a chat to how do I set up a telephony IVR, you're going to be able to find that information there.
Jordan, this is the first time our audience is really getting to meet you. Do you want to talk a little bit about what you do in the Resource Center?
Sure. I am a technical writer here at Genesys, and that means that I write help documentation for PureCloud is the product that I write for. And if you've used PureCloud, you know it's got quite the feature set. So I don't write for everything on there. I write mainly for our analytics, which includes our performance views and reports, for quality management, so evaluations and policies, and also a little bit of the user side for our web chat widgets. Most of that is done to the developer side, but the stuff that's done in the UI in PureCloud, I help write.
Jordan, one question that I get asked time and time again, especially whenever I'm at conventions or just interacting with customers in a more like real-time setting. A lot of customers are curious, what is the best way to get started with Genesys? Like if they were a new customer.
We do have a new user section on the Resource Center. All right, so this is the Resource Center homepage. And there's some quick links here at in the middle, and there is a new user section. So if you are in charge of telephony, you can get your edges and phones up and running. Or if you're an administrator and want to start assigning permissions and roles to people, here's an article or here's a page that helps you with that. Or even if you're just a business user and all you can do is chat, there is a page for that as well. So I think that's a good place to start from the Resource Center.
All right. Jordan, one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the show today is because I know in the past you have answered a lot of questions in the community. You are, I think, a top 25 contributor, if I'm correct.
I am not anymore, unfortunately, but I was very happy about that. When I got that badge for a little while, I was top 25. I screenshotted it.
The good news is you're well versed in answering questions, even if you may be a little rusty. But I think it's time that we go ahead and get started. But of course, I wanted to get started with our favorite section, Stump the Expert. Jordan, if you have not seen this section before, here's how it works. Before we met, I went on the community and I trolled looking for various questions that have not received any replies. I have selected those questions and I will now ask them to you. Now, the challenge to you is, can you answer them? And not just answer them, but give them maybe a best answer. In the event you cannot, do not worry, because that question then goes to our bounty board, where other customers may have the chance to answer them in exchange for GCAP points. Jordan, are you ready?
Yes.
Great. So let's get started. This question is about people, relationships, to supervisors, managing 4 team leaders. This post goes as follows. Following the request received from one of our customers, we found the following problem. Impossible to manage relationships when we have 1 manager, 2 supervisors, depending on the manager, and 4 team leaders, depending on the 2 supervisors and several people or teams, depending upon each of the team leaders. It seems that it is forbidden to create this kind of structure when the 2 supervisors cannot have the 4 team leaders reporting directly to them. Can anyone help? This is not an unusual situation, as it is difficult to understand why this cannot be managed. What do you think, Jordan? Any advice for Jorge?
Okay, so I searched for hierarchy. I know that's a nice feature of PureCloud. I was actually using it today. I went to lunch with a new team member and another new employee for Genesys, and we were looking up their hierarchy to see who they reported to. It can be tricky though if you report to multiple people, which it sounds like, if I'm understanding the question right, they have 2 managers and then maybe 4 people under them.
That's what it sounds like. Yeah. 2 managers and 4 team leads.
Okay, so normally our hierarchy view just does 1 person. I do know that you can set up dotted lines, and we have this in our team where one of the writers reports directly to our manager, but they also work very closely with our release manager, and so they have a dotted line relationship to them. That doesn't sound like exactly what our question asker was asking about, though, or needed. I think they were thinking maybe more equal. To my knowledge, there is not currently a way to set up 2 managers for 1 person or for a team.
Gotcha.
In PureCloud, unfortunately. I think it is all single reports or single managers for the team. So besides the dotted line, I don't think there's a great answer for that.
Let's go ahead and move on to number 2. This question comes to us from Tobias. Tobias wants to know, cannot install 2 apps, standalone widget at a time. Hi, if I try to install apps in integration section, it installs only 1 app with a selected type, for example, standalone, but need also to install a widget. With a link, I can install both. Previously, I could install both on PureCloud. What is the problem? Thanks, Tobias.
This is one I'll admit I'm not very familiar with our integrations. We have a wonderful writer who does write for that, so I don't know if that answer would be in the Resource Center, but it sounds like if something he was able to do it previously and not now, it might be something worth contacting our care team and asking if anything has changed. But I don't have an answer of why it changed or if it actually has changed or not.
Perfect. Tobias, sorry we couldn't give you a definite answer, but maybe another team member or our support team can help. Jordan, this question comes to us from Darren. Darren wants to know about his call history no longer retaining numbers. Darren writes, have had some agents report that the call history on their call panel is no longer retaining their outbound dialer number if attempted. Previously, before July, they could use their call history to obtain previous dialed numbers by the outbound dialer for a later contact. While there hasn't been any changes to permissions or release updates pertaining to advice of this change, I'm wondering if anyone else has noticed this. This would be from an agent perspective call history as calls conducted directly via external handset to internal/external numbers still appear. These calls are from the outbound dialer. Jordan, what do you think? Any advice for Darren?
Well, I like that he mentioned that there hasn't been any changes or permissions or releases updated or updates pertaining to this change. It show up in the Resource Center where he probably figured that part out. So in the Resource Center, we do have release notes. And you can see all of the latest changes. I'm guessing he perused this area and didn't see anything related to the agents or outbound dialing. So I'm not sure what happened on this one either, but I was glad that he at least did some research and found some information before asking the question.
Cool. So are you thinking this might be an instance where he just needs to contact support?
It might be, yeah. If something was happening and then is not happening now, and you don't know of any changes, then that sounds like it might be a bug or other issue.
Okay, perfect. We'll make sure Darren gets your answer, and thank you so much for your time. All right, Jordan, it's time to answer some questions from the community. This question comes from Fred Walker. Fred wants to know, hey, I'm new to PureCloud. Is it possible to transfer received emails to external contacts? If so, what permissions are required to do so? Jordan, I wanted to ask you this question because we had a new member give an answer. The new member's name is Donnie. And I think he gave Fred a pretty good general direction. He said, you can make a contact and forward the email. We are using this construction. But I was thinking Fred might appreciate just a little bit more detail into how he can do it. So what do you think, Jordan? Do you have any advice for walking Fred through how to transfer these emails to an external contact?
All right, so I have an email interaction pulled up here, and I'm logged in just with an agent role, so they don't have a lot of extra special permissions beyond just what comes with the default agent role. And so this email came in, and it says there's no matching results for our external contacts, so no matching profiles in our external contacts. So you can create a new contact. And like I said, an agent could do this. I believe it pops up the email there, so you don't even have to type it. It knew that that was the email. And then you can verify and save.
Cool. And then once they're verified, you can forward the attachment to
Um,
them or the
for
email.
the attachment?
Well, I guess the email. Transfer a received email to external contacts.
Yes, they should be in the external contacts now, and that is up here. Let me hide that for a moment. And there he is in our external contacts.
Let's go ahead and move on. You had left a reply, but we decided it might be good to include a walkthrough for the community members. So let me go ahead and queue up the question real quick. The question comes from Sharaf Adin, who we've had on the show before, and he wanted to know about merge queues for statistics. His question is, would it be possible to merge multiple queues in order to have one global queue metrics report? Number of answered calls, offered, blah, 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 in 4 queues all together, not by a single queue. I know you and one of my favorite coworkers, Darlene, gave a couple of replies to try to help out. But on this call, you wanted to go into just a little bit more detail. So Jordan, what advice do you have for Sharaf?
Well, I'm going to give him the same advice Darlene did and say merging the queues is awesome. And we can't necessarily do it for report, but you can do it for our analytics views, which I think are a lot more powerful and a lot more user-friendly than the report. So I wanted to show those off a little bit. So Darlene did beat me to answering. I get very excited when I do know an answer. So I'm like, oh, I know that. And then someone else already answered. But that's all right. I still got to share the related Resource Center articles. So first of all, Darlene's talking about using the queue performance detail view. And that's a big fancy title. That means this is where you can find out how your queues are doing. So I have information about it here, like how to use it, how to get to it, including all of the available metrics, because some of them, like ASA, you're like, what does that mean? I'm new to call centers. And it will give you the definition as well as the calculation there. But to answer his question specifically, he said, how do I merge the queues to get that information? All right, so I'm in an org that is just a little demo org that some of our salespeople use as well. And I'm in the queues performance. This is the summary view. It shows all of the queues in the org right now. And to merge a couple queues together to see some important metrics for them, I'm going to first start by filtering for them. So I picked out some ahead of time. Advisors, billing, and help desk. And you can do this with 2 queues. I believe our person asking the question said 4. I don't know that there is an upper limit. You probably don't want to do it with 100 queues, but you can merge a couple of queues that you are interested in. So I filtered for those. You can see those listed here underneath and at the top. And then I click the View as Group link, and it will give me the detail page with aggregate data for those 3 queues. I'm going to switch to June here because I think the data in June looked a little better. And so he was specifically asking for offer and I believe abandon and answer. Make sure I got that right. Number of answered calls and offered calls. So in our views, which I really like, is you can choose which columns that you want to use. So over here on the right, I click the little plus button. I'm going to add in offer. And then I believe there's an answered one. Oh, I already have answered and abandoned. Those come as a pair. So our offer is here. Maybe I want my answer right beside of it so I can check that out. And now I know for these 3 queues, I have the combined data of all the calls that were offered and all the calls that were answered, including a percentage, which I think is pretty powerful. And then even though you can't schedule views at the moment, you can save your views. So like, I really want to know this one, you can save it as my team or whatever you want to do it for, a time period, say none for now, and save it. And then quickly go back to that anytime that I want. And then I know people like reports because they can print them out and export them and send files over email, where it's pretty difficult to take a screenshot of this view and do that. But you can export the view as a CSV and open it in a program like Excel, so that we have that as well. And then, of course, as a technical writer for the Resource Center, my favorite part is the help is just a click away. So any view that you're on, you can click the help icon in the bottom left and see the help, the article specifically related to that view right there. So if you have a question about, well, what was ASA again? It's right there. Or how did she do the view aggregate data? How did she get those together? The procedure is right there as well.
That's awesome. What a great tip for all of our users who may or may not have been aware of that.
Yeah, I've had Genesys people tell me, oh, I didn't realize the help button was right there. So I think that's a great tip.
Jordan, as the very first guest to come from the Resource Center, I think you set a pretty high bar. Thank you so much for your time today and for answering questions. I hope to have you on the show again.
Thank you so much. I hope to be back.
Great. We'll work on that. Have a good one, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for tuning in for this week's episode. We hope it was helpful and maybe a little bit entertaining. Each week, our host and experts review community discussions and debate what content to discuss, so your voice matters. Did we miss something? Do you have a question for the show? Let us know. Join the conversation at the Genesys online community. As a Genesys customer or partner, you can create an account. Just click the sign in button found on most pages and follow the necessary instructions to create an account. Also, feel free to email us at qashow@genesys.com. We'd love to hear from you. If this is your first episode, welcome. You can view our entire archives. Go to the Helpful Links panel found on most community pages and find the QA Show archive that interests you. We appreciate your support of the show and the community. Cheers!